Before we explore the North Korean smoking culture, here's a very important clarification. This video exists solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are strongly against smoking and highly recommend quitting if you currently smoke. Please do not model your life choices on anyone portrayed in this episode. Your lungs will thank you. To identify one trait of the North Korean leadership, let alone those wondrously handsome bellies, all three generations of North Korea's ruling Kim dynasty, from the guerrilla hero Kim Il-sung to the Lil Jong-un, have been heavy smokers. Tobacco has often figured into their public image and became a sign of stature, authority, and masculinity. In a country where leaders are mythologized, even their smoking habits have been carefully curated or conspicuously glossed over to maintain an aura of invincibility. In this episode, we plunge into the strange and smoky world of North Korean smoking culture. The cigarettes of the dynasty, the ritual of the pack, the underground transactions, and the state's curious contradictions. But before we proceed, shout out to our loyal channel members. Thank you for sponsoring our production and those imported Coca-Cola. With our infinite gratitude, please enjoy the show. Now, let's dig in.
After its recent adoption of an anti-smoking law, North Korea appears to be ramping up its efforts to help its people quit smoking. But it's questionable whether the law will stop the regime's leader, who's a heavy smoker and continues to be seen lighting up in public. Our Kim Da-mi has more.
Talking about tobacco, shouldn't we start from the real OG smoker? Kim Il-sung, the nation's founding father, was reputed to be a lifelong smoker. He favored domestic North Korean brands like Hwanggumbol and Samsonam, and he even enjoyed leaf-rolled tobacco cigars called Songchonggang. He was never a Marlboro man. True to his self-reliant ideology, Kim Il-sung reportedly refused foreign cigarettes, smoking only local tobacco as a gesture of great patriotism. Archival sources show him with cigarettes in hand during meetings with foreign dignitaries, practicing what some dubbed cigarette diplomacy. The OG grandpa never attempted to quit the habit until he died in 1994 of a heart attack, which was often whispered about as smoking-related cardiac disease. Kim Il-sung's successor, Kim Jong-il, took a very different approach to tobacco. While he inherited his father's pack-a-day addiction, our dear leader developed a taste for foreign cigarettes. He was frequently seen with British brands like Rothmans and Dunhill, sometimes even with the evil imperialist Marlboro. Internal accounts reveal that in 1979, Kim Jong-il ordered North Korean embassies abroad to gather famous cigarette varieties. Receiving the packs, he personally tested them all and declared, "Rothmans are the best. The British gentlemen make a fine cigarette," and thus adopted Rothmans as a favourite. To cater to his luxury habit, North Korean scientists at the Manchongsan Institute undertook an almost comical secret project to reverse engineer Rothmans and create a homegrown luxury cigarette for Kim Jong-il, dubbed Paektusan, which means Mount Paektu. This custom blend was designed to mimic high-grade imported tobacco while filtering out maximum toxins, a quixotic attempt at a healthier cigarette for the dear leader. Despite the effort, Kim Jong-il's health started to deteriorate at a relatively young age. In the early 2000s, he temporarily quit smoking to restore his health. At that time, the dear leader profoundly pronounced that a cigarette is like a gun aimed at your heart, and smokers are the fools of the 21st century. However, after a 2008 stroke, he probably accepted his foolishness and relapsed into chain smoking. 3 years later, the daddy Kim died of a heart attack, just like the grandpa Kim. I bet that many North Koreans had secretly noted the irony of anti-smoking slogans coming from a regime whose rulers succumbed to smoking-related ailments.
Attendance for the huge procession, but Kim's successor and third son, Kim Jong-un, accompanied the hearse, as did endless scenes of unrestrained grieving.
Our current supreme leader, Kim Jong-un's smoking habit is unstoppable. According to Kenji Fujimoto, Kim Jong-un started smoking in his mid-teens, around 12 years old. In contrast to his father's secrecy, Kim Jong-un's smoking is often on full display. State media has shown him puffing on filter-tipped cigarettes during factory inspections, at sports events, on amusement park rides, and even at the inaugurations of new hospitals. He was photographed lighting up inside a subway car and famously smoking in front of his pregnant wife, Ri Sol-ju, and even inside a school for orphans. Though these images undermine official anti-smoking campaigns, they undoubtedly project Kim's image as a macho man. Throughout the years, Kim Jong-un's brand preference has changed in step with the regime's propaganda needs. Early in his rule, Kim Jong-un was often seen with the regime's premium domestic cigarette, 727, named for the July 27, 1953, the Armistice Victory Day of the Korean War. The 727 brand comes in an iconic light grey pack and is explicitly propaganda-driven. Its packaging is emblazoned with the victory slogans from the Korean War years. Kim Jong-un smoking this victory cigarette during times of nuclear standoffs was a deliberate image of wartime resolve. In 2018, Pyongyang moved from military standoffs to diplomacy and economic prospects. So Kim switched to a brand called Gyeonsol, which means construction. The Gyeonsol pack design features a worker waving a red flag at a construction site, symbolizing socialist development. Observers noted that Kim puffed on Gyeonsol during peace summits. What a calculated metaphor that the country had moved from potential warfare and started focusing on building economic prosperity. Most recently, in 2020, Kim Jong-un appears to have adopted a new favorite, Achim, the morning brand. It's a type of lighter, slim cigarette produced by the Naegoyang company. Achim is marketed as a fresh start. Initially designed for the foreign markets, aiming to export to China and the Middle East, the brand has been appropriated by the supreme leader himself. This progression, from victory to construction to mourning, shows how even Kim's tobacco choices are masterful political storytelling. Despite periodic rumors that Kim Jong-un tried to quit for health concerns, his relapses are usually swift and very public. In one candid moment during his 2019 train journey to the Hanoi summit, Kim was caught on camera taking a cigarette break on a station platform in China while his sister held an ashtray for him, a scene that spoke volumes about both his addiction and the feudal deference of his inner circle. The Kim family's tobacco use has posed challenges for North Korea's national image. How could you promote public health or civilized lifestyle campaigns when the supreme leader is a chain smoker? And how could you ask others to quit if the young marshal never succeeded it? In practice, the regime simply airbrushed reality. For instance, during a 2016 anti-smoking campaign, state newspapers conspicuously cropped Kim Jong-un's ubiquitous ashtray out of photos. Yet, simultaneously, official documentaries have used footage of Kim Jong-un smoking as a propaganda device, which portrays him as a bold, hands-on, masculine leader. Our marshal's boldness, even with a cigarette in hand, shows he fears nothing. North Korean media have broadcast images of Kim Jong-un strolling through a missile launch site with a lit cigarette, or exhaling smoke thoughtfully in a lecture hall to project confidence and authority. This image politics is deliberate. Only a powerful man would dare smoke casually beside an intercontinental ballistic missile fuel tank. It's meant to signal that Kim is calm under pressure, even if foreign analysts may call the act reckless. In short, the Kim family has a family tradition of smoking, and this tradition is both ordinary and theatrical. It is ordinary in that, like many North Korean men, the Kims fell prey to nicotine. It's theatrical in how their smoking has been woven into the mythology of the regime. From Kim Il-sung's patriotic puffs on domestic tobacco, to Kim Jong-il's secret Paektusan blend, to Kim Jong-un's choreographed brand shifts, cigarettes have been props on North Korea's political stage. Each leader's habit has trickled down through society as well. When the father of the nation smokes, it tacitly blesses smoking as an acceptable behavior for the masses. And indeed, North Korea has long been known as a smoker's paradise for men.
According to the World Health Organization, smoking is the biggest global health issue. Amid heightened public interest in health, many countries are running anti-smoking campaigns, urging their people to quit the habit. The latest to join the drive is North Korea. Last May, the North Korean Central TV aired a 35-minute-long program titled The Extra Quality Favorite Item Threatening Life.
In the Kingdom, cigarettes are far more than a personal habit. They are a social tool and a form of currency woven into daily life, especially among men. By the late 20th century, an estimated 90% of North Korean adult males smoked, a rate among the highest in the world. Although recent figures show smoking rates have declined to about 50% of men, tobacco remains ubiquitous in the North Korean social culture. Conversely, official figures claim 0% female smoking rate, probably an exaggeration. This stark gender divide means that cigarettes play a unique role in male bonding, hierarchies, and even corruption, while female smokers are marginalized and punished. Cigarettes signify authority. In North Korea, the mark of a good cadre is being able to offer a cigarette to subordinates during break time. Indeed, among men, sharing cigarettes is a key social ritual. A North Korean defector recalls that any workplace supervisor, whether a factory foreman or a People's Army captain, was expected to carry spare cigarettes to distribute to those under him during rest periods. Lighting someone's cigarette or gifting a whole pack can be a gesture of favor, paternalism, or camaraderie. In offices, farms, and barracks across the country, the post-lunch smoke break functions as an informal meeting, a time when bosses might offer advice or scoldings through curling smoke and colleagues cement bonds. Declining a proffered cigarette could be seen as rude or non-conformist, so even non-smokers often feign a puff in such situations to avoid awkwardness. To smoke is to belong to the brotherhood of soldiers, to the fellowship of labourers, to the male elite of the country. This dynamic imbues cigarettes with a kind of social conformity and ritual. Then, cigarettes can be used for bribery. In a sanctioned scarcity economy, cigarettes serve as informal currency. They are easier to come by than cash for many, hold stable value, and are universally desired among men. It is commonplace for North Koreans to use packs of cigarettes to grease the wheels of bureaucracy. Like, during neighbourhood inspections by the police, residents will pool together cigarettes and homebrew liquor as gifts to the inspectors. One report from North Hamgyong Province in 2024 described how community leaders quietly handed police officers a bundle of cigarettes and alcohol at midnight accommodation inspections, after which the police obligingly checked only a couple of houses and left, filing a report of no violations. The cigarettes were a social lubricant that spared dozens of exhausted families from being rousted from bed. The police even praised the neighbourhood leaders who offered such bribes for their flexibility, practically encouraging the practice. Similarly, within the military, cigarettes are a shadow economy all their own. Since formal salaries are negligible, soldiers ask for cigarettes as bribes and then use them to barter for snacks or favours. Perhaps more critically, cigarettes are a preferred bribe because they are less incriminating than cash. A striking example came in 2020 when competing army inspection teams descended on an army corps to extort bribes amid worsening food shortages. These General Political Bureau agents openly demanded bribes in the form of goods rather than money, specifically asking for high-end Myohang cigarettes instead of cash. The inspectors knew that if they got caught with cash, it would be evidence of corruption, but cartons of Myohang cigarettes could be passed off as personal items or easily resold for cash later. These agents coveted Myohang not only for its smooth quality, but also because its price had skyrocketed during the COVID border closure, making these cigarette packs the most inflation-proof commodities in the country. Officers of that Army Corps scrambled to procure enough Myohang cartons to satisfy the inspectors, preferring to pay in tobacco rather than risk punishment.
Now, imagine having to pay bribes to someone just to live day to day. Well, that's the horrific reality facing many North Korean citizens, according to a newly released report by the United Nations.
Cigarettes are a common gift item on national holidays and the regime's countless commemorative occasions. It's customary for work unit bosses to distribute some treats on Kim Il-sung's birthday or Lunar New Year. Often this gift is a few cigarettes for every male worker, perhaps along with a piece of candy or a spoonful of oil. On the leaders' birthdays, special reserve cigarette packs are sometimes issued to party cadres and army officers. One recent trend has been elaborate cigarette gift boxes. In 2022, North Korea introduced a luxury cigarette gift set, branded with the national bird, the magpie, likely aimed at circulating among elite circles. These gift sets, often containing the premium 727 cigarettes in ornate packaging, are presented to model workers or veterans as a token of appreciation. It's a far cry from a healthy lifestyle, but a reminder that in North Korea, a pack of good cigarettes is a pack of respect. Likewise, in rural collective farms, sharing hand-rolled tobacco or corn husk cigarettes is part of life's rhythms. Elderly farmers might gather after a long day to smoke around a fire, swapping tales of the war and revolutionary struggle. Even in grim labor camps or prisons, cigarettes serve as contraband currency, with prisoners trading precious food rations for a few puffs to ease their misery. And it must be said that in a country with frequent food insecurity and grinding work hours, nicotine is one of the few readily available escapes. Many North Korean men smoke not just for pleasure, but to blunt hunger pangs and fatigue. During the arduous march, international observers noted that malnourished men often increased their smoking as a form of appetite suppressant and stress relief when food was scarce. You can't fill your stomach with smoke, but you can fool it for a while. In those years, even some children and teenagers started smoking or scavenging cigarette butts, as the normal social strictures weakened under extreme hardship. A 2016 report indicated that even middle schoolers have been picking up the habit in large numbers, a trend attributed to the pervasive smoking culture and perhaps the example set by the top. This is deeply worrying for public health, but within North Korea, the practice is often shrugged off. Smoking is, paradoxically, seen as a loyal working man's vice.
Not many North Koreans are aware of the harmful effects and consequences of smoking. The leading cause of death in North Korea is cardiovascular diseases, which is largely attributable to early smoking. In fact, former leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il both died of a heart attack. However, medical support for smokers is virtually non-existent.
Nowhere is the smoking culture more entrenched than in the Korean People's Army. Cigarettes are actually part of a soldier's rations. Each enlisted man is officially allotted 15 packs per month by military regulations. In practice, however, ordinary soldiers rarely see their full allotment. Corruption is rife, since your officers would skim off the top. The result was soldiers scrounging for cigarette butts on the ground to collect leftover shreds of tobacco. This practice had become so widespread that the General Political Bureau held a meeting to address the embarrassing sight of uniformed soldiers picking up cigarette butts. The army issued orders forbidding soldiers from tooting in public for cigarette ends, threatening anyone caught with 3 months of revolutionary labor punishment. Yet the root cause is clear: shortages. Border guard units, once considered privileged, saw their cigarette supply cut from 15 to 10 packs monthly last year due to import disruptions. And after commanders cut, soldiers got only 7 packs, probably not enough for heavy smokers. Across all these examples, whether as tokens of respect, bribes for leniency, or crutches for hunger, tobacco is embedded in North Korea's social contract. It oils the machinery of both oppression and camaraderie. It is simultaneously a tool of the powerful and a solace of the powerless. This dual role makes the culture of smoking in North Korea uniquely pronounced. In a society of many prohibitions, cigarettes have been a consistent allowance for men and are arguably encouraged in subtle ways by the state. The regime has tolerated and even glorified male smoking as an outlet that keeps the populace docile. A cigarette calms nerves and staves off hunger. A nation of smokers might be less prone to open revolt. Of course, the health toll has been severe. North Korea has one of the highest smoking-related death rates in the world, with an estimated 14% of all North Korean deaths attributable to smoking, higher than almost anywhere except China and a few Pacific islands. Yet, public health takes a back seat to political expediency and social tradition. In the Kingdom, cigarettes are a paradox. Smoking is a harmful addiction that is collectively embraced, and a private vice that has become a public institution.
Korean are the people's desire and demand for long life in good health and civilized life environment. But many people like to smoke with attachment to cigarettes as yet. The cigarette smoke contains a lot of toxic materials such as nicotine and carbon monoxide.
North Korea's tobacco industry is surprisingly large and diverse, considering the country's small economy. By various accounts, 14 or more state-run factories and joint ventures produce upwards of 30 distinct cigarette brands, with hundreds of brand variations when all regional and private lines are counted. The country could well be dubbed a tobacco heaven in terms of brand variety. This plethora of brands spans from cheap knockoffs sold in local markets to deluxe gift box cigarettes reserved for the elite. And remember, branding in North Korea carries special significance. Many cigarette names are blunt propaganda or references to regime ideology. The packs themselves often feature patriotic imagery and even health warnings. Now, we explore the hierarchy of the North Korean tobacco industry and some of the major brands. For top officials, the best grade cigarettes include 727, Gonsol, Paektusan, Myohyang, which, as we discussed, are smoked by the supreme leader himself. They use the best Virginia tobacco, sometimes imported flavorings, and have nice packaging. For example, 727 is arguably the most prestigious cigarette, whose production costs are likely higher than top Western imports. A 2017 menu from a Pyongyang hotel bar showed 727 priced higher than Marlboro or Parliament. They come in two varieties, the dark red pack and the light grey pack, of which the light grey version is considered the true premium. In the kingdom, they are so exclusive that ordinary citizens cannot obtain them, even for holidays, but are mainly reserved for cadres or used as bribes or special gifts. The mystique around 727 has extended beyond North Korea's borders. Chinese smokers in the border area have developed a craze for them, precisely because they are Kim Jong-un's favorite. In 2025, a carton of 727 was selling for about $70 in China, 5 times the price of normal Chinese cigarettes, and on par with China's most premium brands. Chinese buyers reportedly remarked that 727 never disappoint and is worth the money. No wonder Kim Jong-un smokes these. North Korean trading sources say 727 was originally blended to suit Kim Jong-un's taste, essentially replacing his father's custom Paektusan blend with a new iconic label. However, an inside account revealed that the 727 recipe was just a modified version of Kim Jong-il's Paektusan, adjusted for Kim Jong-un by the State Longevity Research Labs. Other notable premium brands include Hana, meaning one, named after the song We Are One, and promoting Korean reunification. Bulgun Byeol, the Red Star, referencing the red star on the national emblem. These premium packs also now carry warning labels, with modest text like, "Smoking causes heart disease" on the side. These warnings are far smaller and less graphic than those in most countries, and there aren't any gruesome images on packs. These health warnings probably only exist for export compliance. For common folks, there are time-honored domestic brands for brands like Craven, Donghae, Honeybee, and Kumsugang-san. These mid-level brands are what one would find in a typical retail kiosk. Price-wise, before the recent inflation, a pack could be a few hundred won. Nowadays, the market price might be a few thousand won, about 50 US cents. Their quality ranges from acceptably smooth to very harsh. For instance, Kumsugang-san, which means gold and silver mountains, is a brand that the Pyongyang tobacco factory pushes to the general public, even with a cheaper line for holiday promotions. In late 2020, ahead of the Harvest Festival, the Pyongyang cigarette factory temporarily slashed prices on brands as a holiday sale, offering bulk buyers a free glass ashtray emblazoned with the factory logo. This episode shows that the industry, while state-run, has adopted semi-commercial tactics like discounts and freebies to spur consumption, quite a capitalist move within a socialist economy. The sale brought pack prices down to 1,700 to 3,500 won, roughly 20 to 50 cents, according to the black market rates. During this promotion, the factory even reused old cigarette packs and filters to cut production costs. That's environmentally friendly for sure, just with some additional health concerns. For its low price, one can imagine a farmer lighting a Kumsugang-san cigarette during a break, quietly thanking the supreme leader for such great tobacco in his heart. Besides this hyperactive domestic market, cigarettes can be exported for state revenue. It means that the Kims were producing counterfeit Marlboro, Dunhill, Mevius, and even Chinese brands like Hongtashan, and quietly exporting, or say, smuggling them to China. By 2019, North Korean smuggled cigarettes like Myeongshin had penetrated inland China, even reaching Beijing via courier, where a carton could be had for $15, still far cheaper than Chinese domestic brands. Chinese authorities technically restrict foreign cigarettes to duty-free shops, but enforcement is lax or non-existent for these, perhaps because Chinese smokers and petty traders enjoy the arrangement. In the grand scheme, cigarettes are small fish compared to weapons or drugs, so they slip under the radar. North Korea's official stance on smoking has been fluctuating over time. On paper, the country has implemented tobacco control laws and public health campaigns in the mid-2000s. The plan is to curb what even official statistics acknowledge is a dangerously high smoking rate among men. In practice, these efforts often smack of propaganda and are undermined by poor enforcement, not to mention the glaring image of the supreme leader Kim Jong-un himself puffing away on state TV. In 2005, the Supreme People's Assembly passed the Law on Tobacco Control, one of the first of its kind in East Asia. This law, at least on paper, bans smoking in certain public places, like hospitals, schools, and on public transport. It also set a minimum smoking age and prohibited sales to minors under 18. Nonetheless, this 2005 law was barely enforced. Smoking continued everywhere, from restaurant dining halls to crowded trolleys. By the 2010s, a majority of urban adult men were still smoking openly in offices, hallways, even inside hospitals. Anti-smoking drives in North Korea date back to at least the early 2000s, but kicked into high gear around 2016. The state unleashed a hectic anti-smoking propaganda month. Documentary segments highlighted the dangers of smoking. One such segment showed graphic images of diseased lungs and featured interviews, including an outspoken woman who said, "People who smoke first thing in the morning are disgusting and harmful to others." This statement circulated widely, partly because it was shocking to hear an average citizen, especially a woman, bluntly criticize smokers on state media, even calling them disgusting. It suggested a top-down permission to momentarily shame the public's smoking habit. State newspapers also reported on new non-smoking research stations being established, and that cigarette packs would now carry warning notices. State television boasted in May 2016 that the number of non-smokers is remarkably increasing with each passing day. Perhaps the most memorable was the 2016 anti-smoking decree by Kim Jong-un himself. That June, Kim issued an order to intensify the crackdown on smokers to promote a civilized socialist power. Enforcement in Pyongyang became momentarily draconian. Police and youth league volunteers were posted at any public gathering spot, bus stops, zoos, and stadiums to catch smokers. They took photographs of violators and threatened to broadcast these images on TV to shame them, a very North Korean form of punishment by public humiliation. Fines were levied for first offences, and repeat offenders could face criticism sessions. This campaign was widely publicized internally. However, its absurdity became evident when Rodong Shinmun published photos of Kim Jong-un casually smoking in an orphanage and in a new subway car. Pyongyang residents know quitting is good, but they want to see it start at the top. Indeed, by late 2016, locals were quietly mocking that campaign as a hollow gesture. And as it happened, the crackdown fizzled out after a few months, with no lasting change in smoking behavior. Recognizing the previous failure, the regime then tried a fresh push. In November 2020, the Supreme People's Assembly rolled out a new tobacco prohibition law, with stricter provisions. This law explicitly banned smoking in venues like political meeting halls, theatres, cinemas, and health facilities, and threatened legal socialist punishments for violators. The state news channel touted it as necessary for providing citizens with a hygienic living environment and protecting life and health. Interestingly, the 2020 law coincided with a period when Kim Jong-un himself stopped being seen smoking in public for a few months, likely deliberately. South Korean observers speculated that he had been urged to refrain in public to set an example, perhaps by his wife Ri Sol-ju, or as part of presenting a healthier image during his diplomacy phase. Indeed, during the April 2018 Inter-Korean Summit, Kim was not seen smoking in front of South Korean President Moon Jae-in or other foreign dignitaries. An anecdote emerged that at one point, President Moon half-jokingly suggested Kim should quit for his health, a fatherly nudge that reportedly made Kim smile politely. However, once those summits passed, Kim's habit returned full force in domestic settings. By 2019, as mentioned, cameras caught him sneaking a smoke break on his train trip. Then, when COVID hit, Kim's public smoking was again frequent. The North Korean public has shown a mix of skepticism and dark humor toward these anti-smoking laws. Informants claim that citizens privately call the laws nonsensical when the marshal is a chain smoker. After the enactment of the 2020 law, a resident quipped that the law is applied only where it's easy. Police started targeting women and occasionally cracking down on younger men in parks, while high-ranking officials continued to smoke during meetings with impunity. Another hypocrisy lies in North Korea's simultaneous promotion of anti-smoking at home while expanding tobacco production for export. The tobacco prohibition law talked of tightening controls on cigarette production and sales. In reality, North Korean factories kept cranking out cigarettes, the difference being that many were funneled to the smuggling pipeline rather than local kiosks. Tobacco factories are major earners of foreign currency, and the state wouldn't want to kill the goose that lays golden eggs. In effect, the anti-smoking law was enforced only insofar as it didn't threaten the business of smoking. A China national tobacco subsidiary in Jilin reportedly partnered with North Korean factories in Rason to produce cigarettes for the Chinese market.
British American Tobacco agreed on Tuesday to pay a fine of $635 million to U.S. authorities after pleading guilty to charges that it violated U.S. sanctions on North Korea.
British American Tobacco, at one point in the early 2000s, had a presence in North Korea too, though they withdrew around 2007 under pressure. The Economist reported in 2018 that new quasi-private conglomerates were propping up the economy through domestic consumer goods and some exports, including cigarettes. So Pyongyang is quite willing to profit off tobacco internationally while preaching abstinence domestically. Rightly, the Ministry of Public Health has published sobering figures. By 2021, 14.1% of North Korean deaths were due to smoking-related diseases, the sixth highest rate in the global ranking. They know smoking contributes to the country's high rates of lung cancer, chronic bronchitis, and heart disease. In response, North Korea has participated in some international health initiatives on tobacco and signed the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control in 2005. Anti-smoking posters have been spotted in Pyongyang's hospitals, showing a skull and cigarette or diseased lungs, underscored by slogans like, "Smoking leads to death." So at the ground level, doctors and teachers do try to dissuade the youth. These efforts, however, face a credibility crisis when the living embodiment of the state violates every principle publicly. In summary, North Korea's anti-smoking efforts embody the regime's broader contradictions. Modern scientific awareness colliding with an authoritarian leadership cult. The state simultaneously tells citizens that smoking is an unsocialist bad habit, and that the leader's every habit is worthy of emulation. It enacts public health laws to appear like a civilized nation, keeping up with global norms, yet flouts them when politically expedient. The result is a kind of absurd theatre. Propaganda vans blare messages like, "Let's quit smoking for our health and others." Drive past factory gates where workers step out to smoke a quick cigarette with portraits of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il smiling down at them, the latter likely with a cigarette between his fingers in the portrait. In some countries, smoking is a personal habit, but North Korea is not one of them. North Korea's approach to smoking is thus a microcosm of its governance. Addiction and dependency encouraged among the masses, strict rules on paper, exceptions for the elite, and a macho image for the leader. The cigarette in North Korea is never just a cigarette. It's a prop in the grand play of socialist virtue and human frailty. Here, a cigarette is not just inhaled, but also conferred. It is offered upward, accepted downward, passed sideways, and sometimes traded quietly for a favor that should not require a favor. It is smoked at weddings, funerals, and 5-year plan briefings. It is lit beside missile fuel tanks and extinguished on the floor of orphanages. Every puff participates in the system. The factory worker exhales obedience. The soldier trades tobacco for soup. The official gifts a premium pack to the superior who already has too many. It is a loop of ash, ritual, and silence. They are a performance of conformity, a unit of social currency, and a shared coping mechanism for shortages that must not be acknowledged. In a land where the supreme leader's personal taste determines missile trajectories and movie scripts, it is entirely logical that his preferred cigarette brand becomes a national object of loyalty, foreign demand, and smuggling operations. The same government that declares smoking to be antisocial, unpatriotic, and dangerous to public health also invests millions in joint venture tobacco factories, exports contraband cigarettes across continents, and manufactures brands named after sacred mountains, war victories, and the birthplaces of dynasties. Meanwhile, laws against smoking are passed with solemn vigor and selectively enforced against the population least responsible for the problem. In the end, it is unclear whether the state is trying to help the people quit smoking or simply encouraging them to be more discreet about it. Still, we must be responsible. So we say again, smoking is deadly and strongly discouraged. If addicted, you should definitely quit it. And yet, in this particular country, it is also the glue of the economy, the lubricant of the bureaucracy, the breath of the military, the whisper of loyalty, the smog of propaganda, and the scent of power. So, in the kingdom, smoking is the strongest binding agent.